This week is coming up on the 2-year anniversary of me starting a job as assistant buyer and also the 1-year anniversary of me quitting said job. If you haven't watched my other videos, I'm Teryn and I studied fashion merchandising and apparel design in undergrad, and then I went on to grad school to study business. Naturally, a role as an assistant buyer seemed like the right route to take to use the knowledge and skills that I obtained while pursuing those degrees, or so I thought. When I learned about a career as a fashion buyer, I learned it as studying, following, and forecasting trends, while also trying to be the most fashion forward among your competitors. I also learned that you had to communicate with sales associates to see what's going on in the stores and seeing what people are buying, while also adhering to a budget and looking at historical data to kind of base some parts of your buys on. And the circumstance that I was in, there was no looking at trends, forecasting, or trying to have a competitive edge. In this particular setting, I was an assistant buyer for a lower division of a retailer. Instead, buys were pretty much completely structured around historical data from last year. Now, I'm not saying that this is the case for every role as an assistant buyer at every company, and it could even be different as the same role in the same company. But this is just strictly speaking from what my experience was. Personally, I never heard the buyer in my office talk about trends or what we should be looking into. It was just always, well, what did well last year? Business was bad and we heard about it every day and saw it for ourselves in our sales reports. So I can understand why you want to minimize risk and do more safe buys. But as a consumer and hopefully a devout shopper, I would think that if you come to the store frequently, you would see like, these are the same clothes that I saw last season, last year. You would just hope that people would pick up on you buying the same thing, and at some point it's going to get old. My day-to-day as an assistant buyer mostly consisted of running reports, dealing with systems being down, and submitting price changes, promotions, and markdowns. I met with vendors or brands on occasion, went through lookbooks with the buyer to select styles, and also spent a great deal emailing and talking to brand representatives. If you work in fast fashion or just work in an office where you have a ton of brands, dealing with brand representatives is going to consume a lot of your day. I did get to spend some time with some great buyers and learn from them. I learned how to research and look to see if a brand would be good for your office or your category, and I also learned how to dig into data and format buys based on region. When people would quit, other people would say like, oh, they thought the role of an assistant buyer was going to be glamorous. They didn't realize it was going to be blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, people know that they're signing up to sit at a desk all day staring at a computer screen. There's nothing glamorous about that. You might get some free samples here and there, or you might get a nice deeper discount here and there. But it's like, people know what they're signing up for. It's definitely the environment and the menial tasks that they have to do all the time that get people to quit. Let's get into it. So to go into why I quit, I'm going to paint the picture for you. At first, I was just seen as quiet, but of course, as the black girl in the office, that turned into my being off-putting and having an attitude while somehow still not speaking. Yeah, I don't know. I'm naturally very quiet and shy, and once I'm comfortable around people, I do start to open up more. However, this is the job. I'm not really here to make friends. Like, you can have friends at your company, but it's like in my office, like people I see every day, like I'm not going to be telling you all the little details about my personal life. That's just not professional to me. If we do get to open up, cool, but it's like you don't have ownership. Like, you don't have the ability to pry information out of me. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. So as every delusional work environment says,
we're like a family.
They start off by acting like you're all play cousins to try to get into your business when they really shouldn't do that. Like, there's certain things like, oh, here's where I went to school, here's where I studied, this is where I'm from. Cool, but then it's like,
can I see pictures of your boyfriend? What does your mom look like? What's your mom's name? When did I'm like,
girl, what? Like, I'm here to work and go home. Like, I have friends. I have friends outside of work. And I do have some friends at work, but they're not in this office. I mean, it's just all a big no for me. I just met these people. There's no way I'm going to be telling you all the details about my personal life. Then, trying to play along and get to know the people in the office to see if they might be cool, especially the girls in the office that are close to my age. I would walk down with them to Starbucks. So me and the girls close to my age try to do that, like get to know me, like me get to know you. We have nothing in common. if you don't have anything in common with someone like besides work, there's no need to try to force and build a relationship. And one day we're all sitting around at work and they're talking about the Real Housewives franchise. And someone decides to ask me like,
hey Teryn, do you watch any of the Real Housewives shows?
I'm like, yeah, I watch the Real Housewives of Atlanta from time to time. And they're all like,
oh.
And then one girl, she decides to say like,
you know, I tried watching the Atlanta show, but I just couldn't get into it. It wasn't really my vibe.
I'm like, a bunch of middle-aged women arguing and fighting on TV doesn't really vary that much from show to show. So I see what you're saying if you watch literally all the other shows, but not the black one. Yeah, I see that.
I see you. I see you. We good. Okay. We good. I see you. We see each other. We see each other. We good.
And then there was also the issue of workplace gossip and pettiness, which I'm just not going to indulge in. I just don't see the point in me gossiping about someone in the next office. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't care about people's personal life at work. Like, I don't care. Like, maybe we're talking about, I don't know, like celebrity gossip. Maybe I'm like, no. Let me say I wasn't the only black person in my immediate office. There were actually 5 black women in the office, and 2 of the people actually were under a different function of the company, so they didn't really have to interact with the buying office as much per se. But there were 3 of us within the buying sector, and the other 2 of them were a lot older than me, but they weren't like black, if that makes sense. So when I first get to the office, they start acting like, oh, we're sister girls, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, come to me if you need anything. Let me know if I can help you. But then, of course, they start like talking behind my back and just trying to be petty to fit in with the other people in the office, I guess. Like, it was like,
oh, let's all turn on Teryn.
And the relationships between the white people in the office and the 2 other black women in the office, it definitely reminded me of when there's a black woman playing a role in a TV show or movie and the cast is predominantly white, how there's like 2 tropes that they usually go after is either the sidekick, best friend, or it's the sassy, funny black woman that shows in for one-liners. So they both chose those 2 roles as they saw fit. And then I feel like the last role is like the helpless black girl that needs help and saving, and they're going to turn her into a project. And I guess that's what they thought they were going to do with me, but no. Like, if people don't see you acting like in one of those 2 like typical stereotypes as to what a black woman is, they really get upset. Like, it was just a weird office. Like, people would body shame people that were in the office before, like make jokes referring to like their sexuality. It was just weird and wrong. Like, it's just weird. Like, honestly, if you're gonna be that petty in the office place, please find some friends, find a group chat, something. Put your energy into something else instead of your coworkers. So if you were able to see through me being told that I was off-putting, having an attitude, despite me like really just showing up to work, like I would speak to people. It wasn't like I wasn't being amiable and friendly. It's just we didn't really have much in common, and I don't need to force a friendship with coworkers. So you're able to see through those microaggressions, which they are, and see that eventually it turned into more blatant racism. So I could honestly do 2 whole videos on as to why I quit in the blatant racism that I experienced in my office. So I'm going to try to keep it short. But essentially, I quit my job as an assistant buyer because I was in the office in a company that was racist. Like, let's just call a thing a thing. And I definitely kept like a list of grievances and things that happened to me that were blatantly racist. If I can find it, like, it was so long. Like, it was ridiculous. But I went to HR. I did everything that you're supposed to do. And the HR lady, who does not look like me in any way, not a black person, not a person of color at all, I like told her about all the experiences of racism that I had. And she looked me dead in my face and said, you know, I don't think this is racism. I think you're just being sensitive.
Oh, yeah.
I just quit because it was racist and boring. Also, one of the reasons why I quit was I just realized like this wasn't it. Like I definitely worked in previous jobs in the fashion industry where I'm working for someone else, and it's not really about like being a bad employee or having like a bad employer, because I had some good people that I worked with. I think I just realized like if I can and that there's a will for me, I definitely want to work for myself and to have more creative freedom and allowance to do what I want to do. I want to be engulfed in fashion. I don't want to be sitting at a desk. Like I understand like working in fashion, a lot of time you're going to be working at a desk, duh. But staring at a computer screen, like no, like I want to be in the ins and outs of actual fashion. And again, I'm not saying this is going to be the experience for everybody. I'm probably going to do a video on like a toxic work environment and kind of talk more about my experiences, but just kind of keep this video short. Organizing a system buyer can be cool. As we know, the retail industry is definitely struggling and partially dying, but hopefully if that's a role you want to take, definitely do some research on the companies, definitely look into the people, the environment, the company culture, if there is one. Just do as much research as you can before you jump into something, and definitely realize that in this industry, you still need to be making connections. You need to be networking because, you know, like your company can go down in the dumps. You might hate your job. Like you definitely need to be, this is an industry where you need to be always looking to see what your next step is, because either someone's going to force you to make a next step or you're going to have to jump and leap out on your own. I definitely realized like working as an assistant buyer just wasn't for me. It's for some people. It's definitely for some people, but it's just not for me. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more. Thank you again.